season starts here, the Vancouver Boat Show.
Welcome to the Vancouver International Boat Show virtual seminar series, sponsored by Freedom Marine International Yacht Sales, the premier choice for exploring the passion of yachting. Thank you for joining us. The seminar will begin in 1 moment. If you are having technical difficulties, you can reach me, the online moderator, via the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Questions for the speaker can be added to the Q&A box also at the bottom of your screen. I will ask these questions at the end of the presentation. Today's seminar, Merits of the Thin Line Prawning with James Patrick, will be presented in 2 parts. Part 1 is a video presentation, after which the speaker will join us for a Q&A session. The speaker will also be here to answer your questions, so you can drop those in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen throughout the video. Now presenting Merits of Thin Line Prawning with James Patrick.
Welcome. Good afternoon. My name is James Patrick. I'm the founder and president of Pro Marine Products. Pro Marine is a small manufacturing company that prides itself on creating unique and innovative products for the recreational fishing industry. One of our innovative products is our Pro Line Hauler, which we built to retrieve prawn and crab traps. I'm going to demonstrate this for you in a few minutes. The title to this seminar is The Merits of Thin Line Prawning. I intend to share with you some of the secrets to successful prawning. Prawning is easy, you just have to do it the right way. So don't leave this presentation, because by watching it, you'll take away at least one of the most important secrets to catching more prawns. Following this pre-recorded presentation, I'll be available for questions and answers. Fishers for many of the different species of fish in our waters have lots of helpful hints and stories on how to catch fish. I mean, you've probably seen them all telling all sorts of stories about that's the size of the fish that I caught. But anyway, they've got lots of stories, and a lot of the suggestions about where to fish, what depth, the speed, leader lengths, types of bait, color and size of flashers, ebb tides, flood tides, etc., etc. The suggestions go on and on. The knowledge of these fishers is usually experience-based and is very valuable. And for goodness sakes, don't underestimate that old seasoned fisherman in his little boat at your marina. He has lots of tested secrets. And fishing for prawns is no different. There's a huge body of knowledge and advice out there about where to fish, how deep, what kind of bait, what kind of trap, etc., etc. Listening to local knowledge on these matters is extremely valuable. I'm here today to introduce you to Thin Line Prawning. It starts by understanding one thing. The one great secret to successful prawning is to ensure that your trap's not bouncing along the ocean floor in a strong current or a rough sea. Often, when I make a presentation, seasoned fishermen who are listening will say, yeah, we know all that. We know that prawns are very skittish and will quickly swim away if a trap is moving. They go on to say that we just add a whole bunch of weight to the trap, or we put an anchor by the trap. I have to quickly try to explain that the reason the trap moves in a strong current is it's due to the drag that's created by the line from the trap to the buoy at the surface, and of course the resistance of the buoy itself. The solution to the drag is not to add weight to the trap, but to get rid of the drag. Just adding weight to the trap is counterproductive. So what do? Traditionally, prawn fishers have been using 400 feet of 5/16 line, leaded line, from their trap to the surface. It's been verified by divers that if you place a trap down on the ocean floor with nothing attached to it, no line to the surface, nothing attached to it, it will not move even in a strong current. But we do know that traps move, because how many times have you heard fishermen saying, my gosh, I think I left it around here somewhere, and oh, maybe somebody stole my trap. But we know that the traps move, and we know that they move because of the drag or resistance created by heavy diameter line. I have an example of line here to show you. This historically is the kind of line that prawn fishers have been using. They use it for crab fishing as well. This is 5/16 leaded line, and if you put 400 feet of that line in the water, drop it down to the ocean floor, and when a current comes along, this is what happens. The resistance against the line pushes the line off like this, and you got your float at the surface that's bouncing around in the waves, and it's doing this, and it's lifting, slowly lifting the trap off the ocean floor. And when it's moving, the prawns won't go in the trap, and worse than that, if it bounces enough that it ends up in deep water, it may float off and never to be found again. So if any of you have purchased one of our haulers recently or attended a presentation, you would have seen a fact sheet that we distribute. It has a cartoon at the top of the page, and I've got an enlargement of that fact sheet here. And you'll see that the cartoon is about two cavemen pulling a cart that's full of stones. And you'll notice that the cart has square wheels on it here, and they're having a terrible time moving the cart. There's another caveman standing nearby, and he's got two revolutionary round wheels that he's offering to them. And their message to him is, thank you, but we're too busy. So the message that you can take away from this cartoon is that by embracing change and technology, we can do wonders for solving problems. And it sort of magnifies the whole idea that maybe doing it the old-fashioned way isn't the right way to do it. So in regard to the line, technological advances in the production of rope and twine have resulted in new fibers being created that are very, very small in diameter but very strong. This is the foundation of our secret. We reduce the line drag by using very strong, small diameter line. Our line that we use is round, black, braided nylon. It is 2 millimeters in diameter and has a tensile strength of 450 pound test. The line has a specific gravity, more than 1, and therefore sinks in the water. Experts have done a calculation for us and tell us that our line has 14 times less resistance in the water than the 5/16 line that I just showed you. Believe me, if you do as much as you can to reduce the drag, you'll stop the trap from moving, you'll catch more prawns, you'll save a great deal of space and money, you'll lose less gear, and reduce the number of times you come up empty-handed. I'd like now to show you our new innovative line hauler and some of its features. As you can see, this line hauler is small, compact, it's very rugged. It's made of powder-coated aluminum, and all the fasteners on it are stainless steel, so there's no rusting that takes place. The spool that fits into it is also made of aluminum, and there's 450 feet of line on that spool. Isn't it interesting that you can get that much line on a spool that you can just put in one hand? And compare that to the tub of 5/16 line that often gets buried in a bucket like this and gets all tangled up. The most surprising feature of the hauler is that you do not need an independent 12-volt power source, because our hauler is powered with your cordless drill. as you can see, we're using for this demo here a DeWalt 20-volt drill. Other manufacturers have similar products, and they're just as successful. So here's how it all works. You take the end of the line, the loop at the end of the line, and you put it onto the carabiner on your trap. And I might stop there for a moment to say that in readying for this to the entry of your trap into the water, you want to ensure that whatever bait that you're using is put into a container that is strapped to the middle of the trap, because it's very important that if the trap ends up on the ocean floor and it's tilted in any way, your container, if not strapped to the middle or contained in the middle, it'll roll to the edge, and you might have the situation where the prawns are feeding from the outside of the trap instead of going into the prawn tunnel and getting caught inside. So now that you've got your trap baited and you're ready to put it into the water, you just throw it into the water, let all the line out off the spool, and if you wanted to speed up the descent, you could always put your engine in gear and slowly move toward an area where you would like to have your trap come to rest. All the line is taken off the spool. When you get to the end of the line, you disconnect the line from the spool and attach it to your identifying buoy. And there it is. Voila, we're prawning. So I might stop here for a moment and introduce you to yet another innovative ProMarine product, and that's our new pickup buoy. This is a inflatable buoy that's made of PVC, and you'll see that the unique feature is that it has a handle on the top. So it's no longer necessary, if you're using one of our buoys, that you carry a boat hook, so that when you're retrieving your trap, you can grab the line underneath the float or the shackle. All you have to do is motor your boat alongside the buoy and reach over and pick it up. So I might also tell you that you want to make sure that the buoy is not too large, because it too is creating a lot of drag in the water. So the only thing that you have to do is make sure that the buoy is large enough to support the weight of your line, and large enough that you can spot it on the water. One more thing I can tell you about, you'll see that this is yellow. I might point out that in Washington State, the Department of Fisheries have regulations that mandate that when you're fishing for prawns, you must use all yellow buoys. When fishing for crab, you must use buoys that are half red and half white. Our Canadian regulations are not that strict, and for that matter, you could use an old milk container as a float, as long as it's got your name and phone number on it. I do know, however, that our Department of Fisheries keeps saying that the regulations are under review and will likely change in the near future to mirror those in the United States. I tell you that just because if you're out shopping for any new buoys, you might keep in mind that in the future you'll have to either be fishing with yellow or half red, half white. Prawns are scavengers and are attracted to a trap because of the scent of the bait. Knowing this, it's more likely that if you are in an area where there are some prawns, that they will approach the trap when the scent of the bait is the strongest. It follows that you don't really need to leave a trap in the water for more than 2 or 3 hours. If your bait is not attracted to the prawns in that time, you can easily conclude that you're in the wrong area. It's time to move somewhere else. You don't have to move very far to get into a completely different environment where there may be many more prawns. So my recommendation is this: set your trap, go fishing or do something else for a few hours, and come back and check it. If you're not satisfied with the yield, don't give up. Move the trap to a different location. So now getting back to the process, when you return to retrieve your trap And assuming that you're using our pickup buoy with a handle, you'll just motor up alongside the buoy, pick it up, bring it into the boat, and unhook the line from the buoy, put it onto the hauler, and start bringing in the line. And with the cordless drill, oh, and one more thing that using the drill, all you do is put it onto the shank on the spool and start reeling in all the line. It's recommended that you maneuver your boat so that the line is kept right over the trap. This may require putting your engine in gear occasionally so that you can maneuver the boat. When the trap surfaces, you lean over, grab the bridle, and lift it into your boat. Let's hope the trap is full of prawns. Oh, one more note. In the Gulf Islands, the regulations state that you can keep 125 prawns per license per day. Check the regulations in your area to see if there are any changes to that. So let me summarize the advantages of our line hauler and the use of thin line. Number one, the hauler is very, very small, compact, light. It's easy to use and stow away. Two, there's no need for an independent 12-volt power source. You just use your cordless drill. So because you don't need the independent 12-volt power source, it can be used on any size vessel. Often it's used on an inflatable like this one, and there are literally thousands of boats out there that have an inflatable tender on their swim grid that they use to get to shore when they're at anchor. So our hauler is very easily used on a tender like this where there is no 12-volt power source. There's 450 feet of line on the spool that's so small, as I showed you before, so small that you can put it in your hand. And you compare that with the tangled mess of a great big bucket of heavy diameter line. So because you don't need a great big bucket of line like that, you're saving a lot of space, which is normally at a premium in a small boat like this or otherwise. We've even had a situation where two people with kayaks purchased our hauler. They were used to fishing out of their kayaks, so they had a Scotty deck mount, and they had a fishing rod holder. When they saw this being demonstrated, they knew that they could put this line hauler into the Scotty deck mount, and they could be prawning out of a kayak, no less. So the chance of getting your line, that's the fifth advantage, is the chance of getting your line tangled is eliminated because it's all being spooled on here evenly, again, as opposed to tailing a line from one of the other haulers and it goes into a big bucket like this where it's likely to get tangled on the way in or the way out. The sixth advantage is you can have multiple spools for setting multiple traps. You could have one spool with, let's assume that you're fishing in 300 feet of water. You might want one with 400 feet of line on it. If you're regularly fishing in 275 feet, you might want to take some off so you've got 325 feet on the spool. However, you might have one other spool that's got 125 feet of line on it for fishing for crab. So the other advantage is that this hauler could be used on a small vessel as a windlass to bring up an anchor. The number 8 is the hauler can be used for stern tying your boat in a quiet anchorage. And the last, or another advantage, is that it's not often thought of, but by using thin line, you reduce the chances of theft. The thin line doesn't work well on other haulers, and it's virtually impossible to bring it in by hand. The most important message that I can leave with you and that you can take away from this presentation is that it's all about drag. By using thin line, you'll catch more prawns, lose less gear, save money, and reduce the number of times that you come up empty-handed. I hope that you have found this presentation to be informative. If you'd like more information, please visit our website. It's www.promarineproducts.com. And I would like to urge you and invite you to get out there on the water. Prawning is easy, it's fun. Enjoy our beautiful coast and catch lots of prawns. Good luck prawning, and thank you very much.
All right, and welcome James Patrick, our speaker today. If you have any questions for James, be sure to drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom. All right, James, do you see the questions there on screen?
Braden, I do see the questions, and I think there's 4 or 5 actually. First one is from Mike, and he asks, will your hauler retrieve more than one trap? So I'll just click on answer live here. Am I answering this live now, Brandon?
Yeah, you can just answer Mike at home.
Okay. So, Mike, that's a good question. I'm often asked that question in a presentation because prawn fishers are sometimes accustomed to daisy chaining more 2 traps together, or maybe more than 2 traps. So they ask, will the torque of the drill lift more than 1 trap? And if you know any contractors and carpenters, they can sort of verify how strong the torque is in a cordless drill. The answer relative to our hauler is that the 18, 20 volt cordless drill will bring 1 trap up from 300 feet twice without having to change the battery. And yes, you can daisy chain 2 traps together and the drill will lift up those 2 traps, but it's likely that it'll only lift up one time before you'd have to change the battery. And you got to always make sure that you've got a spare battery with you. I hope that answers your question. The answer to your question is yes, you can lift up 2 traps with it, with that cordless drill. I got another question here from Shelley Harris. And she asks, what type of deck or dinghy mount are you using to attach the hauler to? And I think if you noticed, I was reaching over and taking the hauler out of a Scotty deck mount. So Scotty makes a deck mount, they make a rail mount, and they also make a flush mounted mount. So it fits on all of those, and it's a product that's available from Scotty. I've got another question from Missy. She says, I have a 12 volt on my dinghy. Can you use it without the drill? I'm not quite sure what that question was. The 12 volt on my dinghy, can you use it without the drill? I don't know if she was referring to a 12 volt hauler, either maybe the Ace Line hauler or a Scotty hauler. It is with some difficulty. You can use the Thin Line with both of those products, but it's likely that with the Ace Line hauler that it may get caught in the drum. And with the Scotty hauler, you can wrap the line around the capstan, but in both cases, you're having to tail it into some sort of container, tailor the line into some sort of container. And again, it's likely that it's going to get tangled on the way in or the way out. When you've got one of our spools, it's evenly spooled back and forth on that aluminum spool, so you eliminate that problem. There's another here. David asked, can multiple traps be added to a single line? And I answered that in the question from Mike. Yes, you can daisy chain 2 traps together, and the cordless drill has enough torque in it to lift 2 traps. If you're fishing at a depth of, say, 300 feet, it's likely that and if there's any sort of tidal or current movement, it might be that you'll only be able to use to raise it up 2 traps once without having to change the battery. So I'm hoping that you'd always carry some spare batteries with you. I've got another question from David Hopkins, and he asks, do you suggest weighting the traps to keep the bottom down? And the whole concept with thin line prawning is to reduce the drag of the line that goes from the trap to the buoy at the surface. And it's not necessary to put weight in the traps to keep it there, keep it on the ocean bottom, and to keep it, to prevent it from moving. So I don't have a recommendation at all that you weight the trap to keep it on the bottom, because if you're using the very, very thin line, you're eliminating the drag. It's kind of like trying to swing a great big piece of plywood through the air on its side or full length, and it's all about the drag that's being created. His second question is, how many traps could I put down on one line? I think that I wouldn't want to put any more than 2 down, but you might struggle and get 3 up. He says, I'm sure you'll get to it. Pricing, where to get it, boat show special. We have a great dealer network of marine retail stores that are handling our product, and they all have the line hauler, which regular pricing I think is $279, but boat show pricing is at $250, I believe. And we also can sell them direct. I'm not quite sure where you are, David, but we sell direct off of our website. The website is www.promarineproducts.com. And his fourth question is, have you tried using this system on a rigid dinghy? And he's got a Walker 8-foot. It's not an inflatable. It seems you could have a weight distribution issue. I'm not familiar. I mean, I've never been in a Walker 8-footer, but I've seen them at the boat show. And I think what people often will do is they will install the Scotty deck mount on the transom and then stick the hauler into that deck mount. Or the alternative is, if sort of putting all that weight at the back of the boat isn't possible, you can, and I've seen people do this with an inflatable. They get a 2x4 that goes from one side of the boat to the other, one pontoon to the other, or in your case, one gunnel to the other. And they put the Scotty deck mount on the end of the 2x4. They can then sit on the 2x4, take the drill, and use the hauler so that's out there at the end of the 2x4. So that might be a way that you can do it in your very small vessel. So I hope that answers your question. I have another question from Sherry. And Sherry asks, what if your battery dies when you're using the hauler? Well, that's a good question, because I said earlier that it's very, very difficult to bring the line in by hand because it's so thin and it's hard to hang on to. It might cut your hand. So the hauler comes with an emergency crank handle in the box. So if you do happen to run out of battery power, you can just take your crank handle, put it onto the shaft on the spool, and then crank it in by hand. It works well. It just takes a little longer to get your trap up to the surface. So Louis has a question about what bait do you use? And this is a tough question to answer, because all prawn fishers probably have their own recipe for the bait that works the best for them. But I think for the most part, people are using pellets, and they put it into a conical bait container. And they might also, and it's probably recommended that you put a can of tuna fish cat food in with it, with multiple holes on it that you can put in with a can opener or your screwdriver or something. I've often used a container like that. I'll fill it half up with the pellets. Oh, by the way, it's not a bad idea because the prawns are scavengers, and they're attracted to the trap by the scent. Is that you do make it as stinky as you possibly can, so you can get old fish oil and marinate those pellets in that, and then fill up the container about half full. Put the can of cat food, tuna fish cat food, on top of that, and then strap it to the middle of the trap. And it's important to make it strap it to the middle, so that if the trap ends up on an uneven floor bed, that your cone isn't going to roll to the edge, and then you'll be in a situation where the prawns might feed on it from the outside of the trap rather than going in the prawn tunnels. So I hope that answers your question. So Chris asks a question: how much are the retrieval buoys? Those buoys are also available in our network of dealers, and the retail price generally offered, they're $49.95, I think, and there's probably a boat show special being offered by everybody at $40. So it's a very, very handy device because it's so easy just to motor your boat up alongside and pick it up by hand. Shelley has one: can you repeat what you said about using the system for crabbing? Well, most of the time, people, when they're crabbing, are in much shallower water. They might be fishing in water that's 20 feet deep, 50 feet deep, 75 feet deep, but it's not normal that you're fishing in water that's deeper than that for Dungeness or rock crab that we have in our area. So they've become accustomed to using the 5/16 line, which is the leaded line or poly line or some other line that they bring in by hand, because you're not having to have huge muscles to bring the trap up. So I hope that answers that question. Oh, so you use the hauler the same way for crab as you would use it for catching, for bringing up a prawn trap. And William has a question: how much are your buoys, and is there a boat show special? I think I've answered that already, but it's our dealers are probably retailing them for $49.95, and that's for a yellow one or a red and white one. And they probably are offering a boat show special at around $40, I think. And John has a question about what is the cost of the puller, the line, and spare spools. The puller retails at our network and on our website for $279. That comes with the spool, with the line, 450 feet of line on it. And but you can, if you wanted to, buy just the line separately, and it's very inexpensive, really. It's only $20, and the spare spool is says spare spool. Spare spool with the line on it is $65. So Rod has a question: where is the product available? I'm not quite sure where you are, Rod, but on Vancouver Island, there are a number of dealers from Victoria area to Campbell River, and they all have the haulers available. They've all got traps and buoys available. So Keith asks a question, will your spool take 600 feet of the line? And the answer to that is no. We had to pick a diameter size for the line and the tensile strength that was going to be sort of what was being used on the average. And so we picked a line that we get from the Everson Cordage Company, and has a tensile strength of 450-pound test, so it's very strong. But the 2 millimeter size restricts us to putting about a little bit more than, well, 450 feet is what the hauler comes with. Could get a little bit more on it, but it wouldn't take 600 feet. I have had one person from Alaska who was asked if he could use the system and be fishing at a depth of 1,200 feet. And I think what he did was he, in some way, with a quick disconnect, he took three lengths of 450 feet and attached them. So as it was coming up, he would disconnect or connect them as he was going down and disconnect them as he was coming up. So it's possible to do that. So, and then Song has a question, what's your recommendation for easy bait? I think I've probably answered that a little bit earlier. Most people are using prawn pellets. I'd recommend marinating them in the worst and the stinkiest fish oil you can find, because it's the scent that's attracting the fish to the prawns to the trap. And in addition to the pellets, I'd also put a can of the tuna fish cat food in there. I have a question from William, and he says, I have your hauler and I've not used it yet. How is the line unhooked from the spool and connected to the ball? Well, William, when you've let all the line out, you'll see how the line is attached to the spool. It's very easy. You just unhook it from a little a retainer, and then it falls free. You can then take the loop and attach it to your buoy. Ernest has a question about how do you determine the best spot to launch prawn traps? Well, this is a good question because it might take a little bit of local knowledge. I think that's the best thing for you to do. If you're in a brand new area, if you're out cruising and you're not familiar with the area and where the best places are to crab and shrimp, you look around for other buoys that are out there. But normally you'll find them at the buoys at, say, 250 to 300, 325 feet deep. And but you will know if you are if you've got a little bit of local knowledge, and that's always a handy thing, is to where to go. And I would find, looking at your depth sounder, your chart plotter and all, to find where your bottom is going to be the smoothest or the flattest. And so you're not dropping the trap down to some place where it's going to come to rest on an angle. So I've got a note or a question from Scott. How do you connect the line to the hauler after removing buoy so that it is secure? I think the best thing to do, the safest thing to do, Scott, and that's a very good question. If you're in nice calm water and you can you get to the end of or you're bringing the line up. So you bring up your buoy and you disconnect the line from the buoy. Now you've got it in your hand. And if there's a strong current or something, it may whip it out of your hand. So it's really advisable to take, when you're like 10 feet from the end, put a wrap around a cleat or something so that when you are removing the line from the buoy and trying to put it onto the spool, it doesn't whip out of your hand, and then you're in a situation where you've lost everything. So once you've connected it all to the spool, you can unwrap it from your cleat. Terry asks a question. I presently use a 1 pound weight 100 feet from the top to prevent fouling props. Thin. It's a good question, Terry. Our line is braided nylon. It's got a specific gravity of more than 1, so it sinks. So theoretically, there's no reason for you to have to put weight on the line to get it below the surface and be safely out of the way of props. If you're not satisfied with the speed that the line is going down, you could attach a very, very small weight to it, but not recommended, not necessary. So Diane has a question. I like the buoys with the handles. Are they suitable to use with sinking line? And yes, they are, Diane. With our concept of thin line prawning, because it's been proven to us that the reason traps move along the ocean floor is the resistance of heavy diameter line in the water. If you have 400 feet of heavy diameter line going up to your float, it's presenting a lot of resistance, a lot of drag in the water. So if you remove it, if you go to a very, very thin line, you eliminate that drag. You don't have to put weight in the trap, and you don't have to put any weight on the line. I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it did. David asks a question. Your line would be safer for whales having a tensile strength of 400 pounds versus 1,600 pounds for a 5/16 inch leaded line. David, I hadn't thought of that one, but that's true. Our line does not have the tensile strength of the 5/16 leaded line, but it's not necessary to have that much tensile strength. We have always preached that with using the very small line, apart from catching more prawns, because of the concept that you're going to you're going to have fewer chances of your trap being stolen, because the very, very thin line is difficult to use with other hauler devices, and it's almost impossible to bring it up by hand. I hope that answers that question. Kirk has a question about the length of the hauler arm. The hauler arm length seems rather short. There appear to be issues banging the boat when the trap surfaces. That's a good question, Kirk. You often will see, if you're using Scotty, or not Scotty, but the Ace Line hauler, it's got the long arm that protrudes out from the stainless steel drum that it has. And so it would appear that you can bring that trap way up out of the water and without it banging into your boat. But I think the answer is that yes, we don't, our hauler doesn't stick out a long way from the gunnel, but it's not necessary, because once the trap surfaces, you merely just have to reach down and grab the bridle and then lift it into the boat. So there's a question from Ken. If you have too much line, will it come to the surface? Do you need to weight it? I've sort of answered that one before, but no, the specific gravity of our line is more than 1, so the line sinks and you don't have to weigh it to the bottom. David asks, how deep can I fish? And he says, I'm guessing the system needs a bit of slack, or can I safely drop a trap in 450 feet of water? No, it's like everything else. It's fishing with your downrigger or anything else. There's going to be sort of a curve to the line as it's coming off of the trap up to the buoy at the surface. So if with 450 feet of line on the spool, you could safely fish in 400 feet of water, but you have to give yourself some slack for the movement of the water. Roger asks, I do not see anything boat show pricing under specials, nor do I see retailers listed on your website. where do we buy it with the boat show special pricing. Roger, I'm not sure. I haven't visited all the sites that all of our dealers have, and I'm not quite sure if they're all participating in the virtual show this year. But in the past, they've always had a boat show special, and it's a pretty good discount. So, and if you go to our website, I'm almost positive that we have a complete list of all the marine retailers that are carrying our products. If you have a question, you can please give me a call. It's 778-587-2101. So that's all the questions that were in the queue. And because I've given this presentation a number of times, I have a number of questions that always come up, but I think all of the ones that I would have asked myself, I've already answered by the good questions that were posed there. So, Braden, I think that must be the end of the questions.
We have one more.
Do I have anything else to add?
Sorry, James, we have one more that just popped up in the Q&A box there. If you maybe want to take a look before we go. It's from Dale. He says, I have your product and my 20-volt drill has a tough time hauling up 2 traps on a line. I've had only one trap. So, sorry, I have had to tie only one trap to each line. Well, I think that has been covered earlier, but.
Yeah. Well, Dale, I'm often asked the question about, because prawn fishermen are sometimes accustomed to daisy chaining 2 or more traps together. And I know from personal experience that a 20-volt cordless drill will lift up 2 traps. And as long as you're not trying to do it too fast, it's recommended that you maneuver your boat as directly over the trap as you can get it, so that you're having a pure vertical pull up. But I always ask the question, why are you putting 2 traps down in one location? Are you sure that that's where the prawns are? Because if you're not sure that that's the exact spot that you should be at to catch the most prawns, why wouldn't you put 1 trap in one location, move down the shoreline a short distance to possibly a completely different environment, and put another tool, another spool in the device, and then lower another trap down, so you have 1 trap in one location, 1 in another. I know that often if I ask them that question, they say if they're fishing with 5/16 leaded line, they'll say, oh, well, I don't have 2 great big buckets of that line. I'm fishing out of a small boat, and all that stuff gets in the way. So if you're using our line hauler, you're going to have 450 feet of line on a spool that you could put in one hand. So it's easy just to put 1 trap down, move down a little bit, and put another trap down with another spool. So I hope that answers that question. And there's another anonymous attendee with a question about what type of trap do you recommend? Well, our company sells crab traps and prawn traps, and they're the flex fold traps that have been around a long time, favored by many, many fishermen, because they're the ones that collapse, fold up, twist, and you can put them away in a convenient canvas carry bag. So they're made of polyester line and stainless steel hoops. So there's no rusting, and it's very easy to put them away after you've used them. But every trap manufacturer is going to suggest that theirs is the best, and it's very difficult to pick one over the other. And I must say that in doing research for everything that we've done, I've tried all the traps, and like real estate, it's location, 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 and just how lucky you are at what moment in time you're lifting up your trap. But if you're looking for a new trap, I would highly recommend our traps, which are flex fold traps, and you can find those on our website. And pretty much all of our dealer network have stock of those traps as well. I hope that answers that one. And if there's, are you seeing anything else there?
I think that
Braden?
brings us to the end there. That looks like all the questions we have. Is there anything else you want to add before we end our presentation here today, James?
No, other than please visit our website and go through all the tabs to take a look at the videos that are there that describe how the products are used. And if you have any questions, please give us a call. We're local here, and we're always available to answer any questions, and love to be involved. Carol's got a quick question here, Braden. It's what is the website? The website is www.promarineproducts.com. And thank you, Sherry. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you make use of the information.
All right, perfect. Do you want to say that website name just one more time?
Yeah, www.promarineproducts.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, James, for your time here today. I think that will bring us to the end of our presentation. Is there anything else?
I think that's all. I want to thank you for hosting it, and I want to thank all the people at the boat show for, the boat show is always the kickoff to the boating and fishing season. And it was unfortunate that COVID prevented that this year, but they've made a wonderful attempt with the virtual boat show and these virtual seminars. So thanks very much for the opportunity to spread the gospel.
Well, thanks very much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you giving us your time here today. I want to also thank all of you at home for joining us. We're interested in your feedback, either on this seminar or on ideas you would like to have us cover in the future. So if you have any ideas, let us know by clicking the Evaluate tab located just above the seminar description. To complete the form, you'll also be receiving a post-show survey, so be sure to fill that out. You can also check out all of the features at VIBS Virtual, and if you have any questions, be sure to swing by the info booth for answers. I'd also like to thank our sponsor today, Freedom Marine International Yacht Sales, the premier choice for exploring the passion of yachting. And once again, thank you, James, for your time, and everyone at home.
And Braden, I've got one more thing to add.
Go ahead.
It's my understanding that this is being taped and will be available for all attendees to the virtual show, probably in a week or so. So if somebody hasn't had the opportunity to attend at this time, I'm sure that they can do it later on.
Yeah, starting March 1st, I believe, on the website, we will be able to stream back these presentations. So all you'll have to do is log in to the website, and it should be there to view starting March 1st. So if someone missed it, you can always pass it along to them and let them know that they've got a chance to see it again. And that will work just fine. Once again, James, I want to thank you. And I hope everyone else here enjoys the rest of their time here at the boat show. We're here all week, so come on back. Thanks, James. Take care.
Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Oh, yeah, the season starts.